ready for the next and the final panel for the day. And it's consumer tech, how to grow consumer businesses in today's digital world. And you're going to have some big speakers coming up very soon. We have Vipul Parekh, the man behind BigBasket, the man who built it and sold it for 8,000 crores. You have, he's IIM Bangalore. He's got more than 25 years experience, 30 years experience in industry. He's going to be on stage. You're going to have Amuleek, Singh, Bijral, who's a co-founder of Chai Point, one of the largest chai and tea chains in the country. He has more than 180 stores. He's a Harvard grad and decided he's going to build the biggest chain. Then we have Neha Kant from Clovia, who sold it for 1,000 crores almost to Reliance. Then you have Varun Kullar, who's actually built, he's obviously IIT Madras, ISB, McKinsey, Boston Scientific, and LinkedIn head of growth for Asia Pac. And you're going to have Ankur Khetan, who's a Fireside Ventures principal, who's got brands like Boat and Mama Earth in their portfolio. More than 3,000 crores deployed across 33 brands. Guys, you want to hear, this is a power-packed panel. We've kept the best for the last, right? Please help me welcome them on the stage, one by one. Vipul Parekh, big round of applause. BigBasket, founder of BigBasket. Vipul Parekh. Now can we have Neha Kant on the stage, please, from Clovia? Vipul, do you want to? Neha Kant on stage, Clovia, please. Give her a big round of applause. Amuleek Singh Bijral, Chai Point founder. Center. Amuleek. Varun Kullar, LinkedIn head of growth Asia Pac. He's on to his next venture. You want to take this one, Varun? This one, yeah? So that they can match the faces to the. And Ankur Khetan himself. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to you, Ankur.
Thanks. We shall get started with obviously a very power-packed co-panelists. And what I read commonly through the introduction was there was an idea which struck them a few years back. And that idea, which could have been seemingly small or large, but with a very clear, sharp focus on building for the consumers. They have not only scaled companies, they scaled them successfully. And today, these are forces to reckon with. So on that note, maybe I'd just request my co-panelists to make a quick introduction and with the introduction, talk about that one single insight which made you believe in your entrepreneur journey to take that step to start this business. And Vipul, I'll come to you as well in terms of how your journey has panned out. But we could start with Vipul.
Sorry for that. Technology and me don't go along very well, though I'm in a tech business. My name is Vipul Parekh. I'm one of the co-founders of BigBasket. Hopefully, most of you heard of BigBasket. We're an online grocery business. Started about, I think, almost about 12 years back now, 2011 and 2023. And BigBasket came about because we had this stupid idea of trying to sell stuff online way back in 1999. Right? And we said, this is a great time. India will. Amazon was there in the US, and we said, India will eventually start buying stuff online. Except that 1999 was time when people were still on dial-up lines, right? And there was no mobile net, there was no mobile internet. So it was way too early. And as part of that, we launched groceries as an online category. And to our great surprise, actually, groceries outsold CDs. I'm used to ship CDs those days, so you can imagine how ancient I am. But the fact is that, that sort of gave us the belief that there is a market for online grocery in India. So predictably, when the entire business went bust, we said we'll shift to actually doing physical grocery and stop doing online, because online doesn't work in India. So we built an offline grocery business built that, sold that, and then we said, some years later in 2006, we said, it's important that we go back to grocery again. Maybe now's the time to go back to online grocery. So we started BigBasket in 2011, except that it was still very early. And I remember going and meeting investors and they saying, are you joking? Do you think people are going to buy groceries online in India? Much to their surprise, they did. And that's how BigBasket got started. I think we were fortunate. BigBasket came through a lot of trial and error, as you just heard. And a lot of entrepreneurship. Actually, one of the biggest insights I've had is that there's no short way to success. I mean, nobody. The best VCs, the best entrepreneurs can never be sure that the idea is going to work. It's a matter of iteration. It's a matter of staying steadfast, and matter of discovering how you can shape your product to the market.
Hello. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Fundamental insight which took me to take a plunge in selling chai was the size of the market and the extreme neglect for the second most consumed beverage, and absence of any single brand which was trying to do justice to it. So I was looking fundamentally for a very large TAM. I come from a tech background, cut my teeth mostly in Microsoft, started as a developer and going on. So I got into it with the idea of building a product brand. Journey was through retail, but we were quite clear right in the beginning that arm's reach convenience around the product is the only way to capture this huge TAM. Because, chai, I mean, imagine if there was great chai, somebody going around without disturbing everybody would extend the arm, or at least 70, 80, if not 90% of the people here. So we are at a stage now, as Vipul very rightly mentioned, it's very difficult to articulate, insights. The life of an entrepreneur is so iterative in terms of execution and learning. So where do we stand right now is the key. The key is that omni-channel reality, brewing bots, because this whole thing of chai being an art form is the reason why 35 crore cups per day market for our TAM has not been able to build a credible brand. It's been sort of pseudo-romance mein neglected market rahi hai, is how I think of it. The reality is that in order to cater to this market, you need to invest in brewing bots which give you authentic chai, which itself is a manufacturing and a software journey, so highly iterative. And the brand building route to that has to be a channel which is relatively higher in customer experience, which in our case is the store. But we think of the store as a brand vector. The scale vector is brewing bots of various kinds. We are in 5th version now of our brewing bots, ultimately solving authenticity and quality cup of chai within arm's reach for the consumer. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Neha. I think BigBasket or Chai Point or even LinkedIn does not need introduction, but to a room full of men, mostly men, my business would definitely need an introduction. I'm founder of Clovia. It's a women's lingerie brand. We launched about 8 years back. And I grew up in a very small town, Haridwar in Uttarakhand. And I don't know, throughout my student life, I never went to the store to buy my underwear. It was always my mother and retailer figuring out what I should be wearing. The retailer had never seen me, and this is how I grew up. I went to Delhi for further studies after school, and the trend continued. And even when I started to work, and by now I was shopping with my own money at high streets of Delhi, but the problem hadn't solved itself. And I grew up, my adolescent or my teenage years youth was, I grew up a little uncomfortable in my skin, and as an active sports person, the problem was probably compounded for me even more. And I always wondered, this thought was always with me, but I did not know what is exactly the problem. And I just happened to travel internationally a little bit for work, and walked into a store there and got fitted for underwear, and I realized this is what had been missing, and this is what we don't get in India. This was back in 2010, and I came back and I started my research in my own time, figuring out why there have been brands. Of course, underwear is sold in India. There are brands, and there were some international brands as well in India. And why are we still in that same one-size-fit-all kind of environment? And then I realized supply chain, the way it is structured, the way the retail counters are built for this category, and that is the problem. You cannot really stock so many sizes, etc. And you cannot manufacture. Also, a lot of brands are manufacturing on their own and then distributing. So you cannot have so many problems solving them in one go. And therefore, the problem that they solved was that let's condition customer to just keep wearing one. And that was the insight for us, and that was the problem that I and my team members also felt that needs solving. That's how we got started. The one thing that I think kept us steady in our entrepreneurship journey was I think my a large part of my audience, my consumer base is Gen Z, and there's this word they use called delulu, which means delusional. So I think one thing which helped us was that we were never delulu. We of course fell in love with our idea, and we kept pursuing it, but we were always very realistic about the realities of life, about cash flows in the business. Survival, of course, stayed a priority ahead of all the grand ideas of brand building and consumer experience. It's a very contrary, probably a very harsh thought that I'm putting out there, but I think that's what worked for us eventually.
Right? At the same time, if he wants red and I have blue, he's not going to take it. So you need to get it right at the variant level. So we said we have to focus by variant, by season, by beginning of the month, by end of the month, because customers tend to buy higher in grocery towards the beginning of the month than they do later. So most of the sales happen in the first 10 days of the month. And that's an old habit. People get salaries, so they go and buy grocery. And it continues even today, surprisingly. So therefore, you have to take care of even that nuance. So therefore, you need to take care of all these multiples, and the only way you can manage something like this is by using technology. There is absolutely no other way to do it. So in our case, our buyers and merchandisers cannot place a manual order. The system will not allow them to place a manual order. The system computes the order at any point in time, looking at the variables, and the only way time they can override it is if there's a promotion or if it's a new variant that is getting introduced where they are supposed to forecast for the first time. But after that, the technology takes over, and that starts predicting, and that starts deciding what should be ordered. The buyer does not order, because if across 30,000 SKUs, 50,000 SKUs, if we start ordering manually, first it's not possible. Second, you will get it completely wrong, and then you will have inventory which is dead and buried before the business takes off. So I think technology is a very key component in terms of managing inventory, managing forecast, managing the supply chain.
Great, thanks. Moving on to Amuleek, I think, my question to you is more around, you're in a category far, far complicated around on the something which has consumption moment to talk to someone socially, to be associated with nostalgia, to be associated as a habit of drinking tea morning, evening, catching up with someone, a friend, over conversation, part of meetings, and each one has a very different taste to it, right? Because they've been consuming tea at home. They have a very peculiar way of recipe to tea. How do you bake in tech? Because your consumers who are walking into a cafe or your chai point are very different from a taste standpoint. You may have absolutely no data on what their taste would be. And tech could be an endless play where you could continue to have your bots create recipes after recipes, continue to engineer it time and again. How do you get to that perfection of saying today anybody walking into a chai point will walk out as a happy consumer? So I just want to understand the experience layer to tech.
Yeah, so, just from a location standpoint, actually, cafe is a much simpler problem to solve. The scale of the problem hits you once you are in 5,000-6,000 locations with your brewing bots, right? Corporates, offices, hospitals. Now we're getting into educational institutions, warehouses, manufacturing. There are 5 brewing bots for different use cases. So that's one aspect, that the scale cafe is also a scale problem, but installations across sites is a bigger one. The other part is that chai as a product is actually a very complicated one. Coffee is fundamentally a ratio play of espresso shot, water, and milk, right? If you just look at the hot category, it's a ratio play, right? So the number of ingredients max are 3. In the world of chai, you have spices which range from, maybe 10 to 15 to 20, and people are getting increasingly finicky to it. Then of course, like coffee in chai, I mean the milk fat levels, right? So the permutation combination and the net number of recipes that you need to remember are much larger. Second, coffee is a per cup phenomena. In India, chai is we like to say it, a liter phenomena. It's a volume game. Chai holds for delivery. Cappuccino, yes, delivery is there as a convenience, but fundamentally it's not a product integrity, holding or enhancing channel, right? But chai has been delivered in India since ages. Steel flasks, and now, we pioneered the innovation of heat retaining use and throw flask. So the volumes of chai production literally go into tens and some stores hundreds of liters and not hundreds of cups. So when you have different sizes, multiple products, the recipes that result are manifold. So for the same product, masala chai, let's say, a 100 ml recipe is different from a 200 ml to a 500 ml to a liter. Brewing time, volume. So what we realized very early on is that the training of our chai masters or whatever chai baristas was getting more and more complicated. So we built a consistent business. I think our promise fundamentally has been consistent. I would like to believe that we've done a decent job. We can do a lot better, but our product integrity and quality across states wherever we are is fairly consistent. There's a lot of room to improve, but fairly consistent. So it was getting impossible for a guy to be trained. I mean, and we built the curriculum. See, the fundamental problem that we solved was chai पे ध्यान ही नहीं दिया किसी ने, right? So अब ये कि मेरी वाली चाय है और मेरे घर पे ऐसे बनती है, but fundamentally people hanker for predictability and consistency. I need that kind of chai. वो recall factor ही नहीं बनाया किसी ने, because nobody even built recipes. While as in the world of coffee you had infographics, this is a flat white, this is a macchiato, right? I mean, the infographic based promotion of the product so that customer feels, oh, I like that ratio, थोड़ा milk ऊपर है, इसको macchiato कहते हैं, उठा लेते हैं, right? So chai पे किसी ने ध्यान ही नहीं दिया. So once we started building recipes and the reality became clear that the recipes are multifold, it was next to impossible for a human to really cater to it. So the brewing bot, fundamentally what it does is, it has a cloud memory. So there is an Android tab. And it's a hardware and software play. All the ingredients are loaded. It's a radar driven, I'm talking about the brewing bot which is there at the store. So there are 5 different, it gets differing sort of engineering, whatever intervention. But fundamentally, based on the recipe, the guy just has to say, I need 1 liter of masala chai. And that's it. Ingredients will fall. There's an induction pad. There is a radar because line of sight. Have you noticed you go into a chai shop, there is a guy who's dedicated for chai. Why? Because, 50 साल से चल रहा है. वो उबलेगी तो गर्म पड़ जाएगा. So he's controlling the flame. They're literally a dedicated guy. And he's the most expensive resource in all the darshanis and restaurants. Because he's just fixated on this. He can't multitask. So he built a radar. What the radar does is that the boils are all controlled. The heating intensity gets controlled. And fundamentally then you are able to dish out literally hundreds of recipes without the person memorizing. So at one level, this is the fundamental problem. Then integrating it with use cases. So we have very recently launched what we believe is the world's first per cup brewing system. So in coffee, you press button, you have beans, espresso, cup aata hai. And this is our 5th gen. Now we've launched something and we've deployed close to about 300-400, and we're just frankly going ahead with it. You press the button, tea leaves, milk, water, brewed for you in 20-25 seconds. the authentic way, right? And of course, this is an engineering problem, right? So, coffee machines have been built for the last 90 years, right? I mean, 90 years, 1940s, Vienna, Germany ke cafes, they would have coffee machines and boom, boom, boom. Now, you know, at that level. Chai mein to we would like to say we started it 6 years ago. Literally, you know, nobody paid attention to it. So integrating this with the point of sale system, because there is no chai POS. You know, I mean, you need to have a point of sale system which is taking into account the chai reality, right? So we've integrated the bot with the POS, so that when you decide that, oh, at airport I have to make 100 liters because the flights hit at this time, the person enters it, it goes into the POS, and the POS logs it. कि यार इस टाइम पे इस पार्टनर ने एम्प्लॉय ने 100 लीटर की चाय बनाई, right? And then delivery systems on top of the POS, right? I mean, with use and throw chai flask, we believe that we created an annual category of at least 500 crores, if not more. I mean, if I just take the top 20, 30 brands or companies which are selling chai online delivery, my hunch is around 400, 500 crores of sales. And that dynamic also getting captured into the POS. So, supply chain, you know, we are a milk business, right? Which is a perishable sort of, it was 6-7 lakh liters of milk a month, growing at a nice clip. How do you order it? Demand forecasting of milk. Now, the distribution of milk is great, but demand has to be driven from the store, right? I mean, distribution of milk in India is fantastic because the large co-ops, they have distributors in every nook and corner, and people would know way better than, you know, I can attempt. So the tech part starts coming in, and then we embrace filter coffee. We realize filter coffee is the same problem. Koi dhyan hi nahi deta. So, and we are arguably the largest seller of filter coffee. So integrated it into the system, made sure the system is all Android, which gives us the capability to integrate the brewing bots, as we call them, with multiple other software solutions. So that's our journey.
Nice, thanks. Quite fascinating, I must say. Moving on to you, Neha, I think, you know, as you said in your introduction, there was an insight which was your personal experience of not being able to purchase lingerie with the right comfort, right? Now, in your growth journey early, and you went a very multi-channel approach, right, where there was digital, and digital was catching pace at that time very fast, continues to do so even more. You had your own outlets, you had the general trade retailer who possibly didn't understand the perfect blend of functionality and design in your category. And ultimately, the consumer is so diverse and their choices are so diverse, be it sizes, be it in terms of the design, and they wanted that perfect fit, right? So how did you really think of scaling the business with a very multi-channel approach, blending tech as well, keeping in mind the product design? So just help us walk through the early journey of growth.
So I think if you say early, in our case, it will get really early because Clovia, in fact, predates Instagram, WhatsApp, probably, yeah, definitely Uber. So, you know, when we started, 100% of the business was on desktop, and then mobile, and now apps and so on. But in a business like ours, like Vipulji said, there are only two levers: inventory and brand, or brand/user experience, and both require money. And you know, you lose the balance, and then you lose your way. So I won't get too much into inventory because he already spoke a lot about it. Just a quick preview that we address 9 body types, 50 plus sizes, 6 life stages of a woman, each requiring different kind of a product. And then there are add-ons like sports and different other things. So the SKUs at any point of time we are managing is some 200,000 and more. Average product has a basic minimum size a product would have is 9, and going up to 32 sizes in one product. So the problem was really complex, and if we wanted to really address every girl with a product best fitted for her, this was the only way that there is no manual ordering of the product, there's no manual designing or thinking of the product. It all had to be learned and then applied. So we, from day one, we built a very robust feedback gathering engine where we kept putting, obviously initially we did put some seed designs out there, and we kept learning on what fabric is working, what is not working, what fit is working, making short batches and then scaling them and creating 45 days worth of production plan and mapping it all throughout such that we never go out of it. And then when we moved out of digital space, which had become a comfort space, and moved to offline, it was a different game altogether, because now we had the same problem of just a small 100 square feet kiosk from where we can sell, and therefore 200,000 SKUs won't come in to save us, and we only can at best keep 2,000 there. And so then again the system had to be built, the planning, so there is no manual planning, the system has to plan and then give out optimum shelf stocking for that store, such that our Clovia store, let's say in a street in Delhi, and a mom and pop store just 2 kilometers away will have a slightly different product and price mix. Anywhere between 10% to 50% of the product mix will be different between two stores, depending on the stores where they are. And this kept working, and so that with so much complexity, also we were industry best in our inventory holding till date. For our core categories, we still hold less than 30 days of inventory, and it's always fresh, it's always coming in. And so that was one part of the job, I think, that we did well. The second part was the user experience, which was really interesting with the way the users have evolved and their adoption of technology has evolved. Like I said, we started from desktop, and there the one big problem was that people didn't want to browse. Because you see models in underwear, they didn't want to browse, and most everybody was shopping at that time during lunch hours in offices. So we created something called private mode, and you toggle that button, and then all the screen will go blank, and only where your cursor is, the picture will come alive. And so that's how we got started. Then we built something called a Clovia fit test, where a girl could go take a small 5-question quiz, but which is very visually, with which she can depict what is her body type. And nobody had done that kind of research ever. I don't, definitely not in India, but not much around the world also. And today we have 1 million very intimate body profiles of Indian women, which helped us create those fits for those 9, arrive at those 9 body types and arrive at that right sizing, such that even at such a second skin product, such a fit oriented product, our return and exchange rate is less than 10%. And I'm speaking online. I think for non-fit products also it's more than 10%, but we've been able to reach that level of fit accuracy. Of course, tech also played a lot of role in terms of production quality, but getting back on user experience, so this fit test also taught women how to pick their size. Eventually, after taking the fit test, it told them what is your body profile, and this is the kind of fit, or this is the kind of style of underwear that you should be wearing. Because a whole host of generation like me had grown up never looking at the products, always believing what our mothers gave us, and then just we had no idea what will fit us. So that I think earned us that trust and of our customer, and also build that intimate profile that we could intimate relationship with them, a trustful relationship that we could then extend onto other categories also. And then latest, something which I really like, what we just did, it's not even a year old, is that we were always told, customers always wrote, you always show 0 size models, who are these girls from Russia, Ukraine, blah, blah. We don't identify with them. So we kept trying different things. And at one point we even scored the images, because if you're selling online, somehow this is the first visual hook where a girl is going to decide whether this product I like or not. There's no experience, hand, touch, feel experience. So we always struggled with what kind of picture to show, how to show real women. Indian women want models, so it's not like you can't show too much reality. And now thankfully we have AI generated images, and we can create these really very close to the body type that we want to address images, show product well, the way it will fit, and put that out there. And it has really started to work very well with the customer. The shopping, the conversion has improved, the returns has even dipped better, and the customer feedback is is really showing us that we are on the right path, because this is like very unique. It's quite contrary where people want real women out there, but what is really working is where you create these artificially generated images. And but that's the thing about user experience, that sometimes it's very counterintuitive, and you just learn it by listening to them.
Great, thanks. So Varun, I'm going to ask you a question with a very clear mindset that LinkedIn has operated as a startup, right? And your competition ranges from the likes of Facebook to WhatsApp to Instagram to Tinder and Shadi.com. You're such a diverse sort of blue collar workers, white collar workers coming in on LinkedIn. Of course, one very interesting thing that's happened is if I just reflect back in the last 1 year, there have possibly been days when I've spent more time on LinkedIn than Instagram for sure. Right. I think what I wanted to understand is in your business, there's a very fine balance of engagement and creating nudges for engagement and pushing the bar on monetization. Right. So as LinkedIn was growing through in the journey and with an Indian focused market as well, how did you really think of this engagement versus monetization for the growth story over a long term?
So that's a good question. So for that, you have to understand how LinkedIn makes money. So think of LinkedIn as three marketplaces. Okay, the first is the talent marketplace where people come to get jobs and companies are posting jobs. So there is a marketplace of jobs and basically talent. The second is, as we call it, the sales and marketing marketplace, where you're basically coming in for leads. So you are selling something on LinkedIn. It's like you're running an ad fundamentally. You're getting leads out of it. Okay, that's marketing. And then you're also looking for specific sales leaders, right? So you're looking for people who are decision makers, right? And so that's the sales and marketing marketplace. And the third is the knowledge marketplace. So it's why you come to LinkedIn on a daily basis to learn something. It includes LinkedIn learning, but it also includes learning from each other. So hey, like what is my peer or what is the person who I look up to in LinkedIn posting, so that I can learn from them, right? So these are the three marketplaces. Now, the first two are B2B products. Okay, so large companies will post jobs, they pay us for that. I mean, for the job slots. And then the second is sales and marketing, which is basically a typical Google, Facebook model. You know, you basically pay and run ads on LinkedIn, right? But the third marketplace actually is powering this entire B2B space. Okay, the third is where you basically get the users on a daily basis, and that is the marketplace which actually drives the monetization for the first two businesses. Now, and we say like the knowledge marketplace is the ocean which raises all boats, right? So that's the way, and that's the way tech businesses also work in general. Now, the interesting part is how this third knowledge marketplace business is to be accelerated. And I think that's the key to the success of LinkedIn in the last few years. And there are two parts to that, a supply and demand part to the knowledge marketplace. The first is, when we say supply, we say, what is the supply that you want on LinkedIn? So it is the feed. So when you open LinkedIn, what do you see on LinkedIn what do you see in the feed? There are like 50,000 options of what you can see in the first slot, right? So what is it that we can show you that will grab your attention? And then what is it that the first three panes pretty much will have? Because after that, nobody will scroll, right? So the conceptual difference that LinkedIn has created is that we have gone away from a network-based feed to an interest-based feed. What that means is earlier what the feed used to show is what, if I'm connected to the panel members here, what they are posting or what they are liking, that will be what will be shown on my feed. But now it is about what you've been interacting with on the feed. So if you're talking about a certain Gen AI article, if you liked or shared or commented on something, then the feed will pick up that, hey, this person actually is interested in this topic, may not be in that person per se. So that's how there has been a fundamental shift in the way the feed is designed now, okay? The second thing which is interesting, which is happening is that we've now incorporated AI in a very, very big way. So you will start to see the LinkedIn Coach product on the platform. It's basically like a co-pilot of sorts. What it will try to do is, if there is and I'll give you a very simple example. If there is a post and there's lots of text, the coach, which is a star-like button on the side, will say, "Would you like to? Would you like me to summarize what the person is trying to say here?" Because sometimes there'll be a lot of text, and a lot of people will be writing essays also, which is highly not recommended, by the way. So there is a way to summarize that. Or if you're applying for a job, okay, it will say, "Hey, it seems like you're applying for a job. If you're interested in this kind of job, would you like me to tell you what skills are needed for you to improve your chances to get that job?" And then it will recommend courses which you need to take to improve and to start the upskilling journey. So these are ways in which this coach or this engagement model is improved or is being improved on LinkedIn, so that it becomes a little bit more intuitive. We understand what you're really trying to do, what is your real use case, and we take you along that journey. So I think these are just some couple of examples that we've been doing, and I think the third very critical thing is on trust. So as with large consumer businesses which grow at the speed at which some of these businesses are growing, you also need to make sure that people feel comfortable and trust the platform. And so what we did is we launched actually Aadhaar-based authentication on LinkedIn, where you can fundamentally say that, yes, I am this person who I'm claiming to be. The fundamental belief there is that at some point every claim that you're making on the platform, and that is important because there are 1.5 million fake accounts which get created on a weekly basis globally, which is a lot, right? And India is the second biggest in terms of member usage. So you can actually say that on LinkedIn, people just say whatever they want to say and claim whoever they want to be, which is incorrect. So we've actually gone down this path to say, hey, how can we really, really come down on trust, which is basically education, work experience, identity. Like those three layers will be slowly we'll get all more and more identity verification on that. So I guess it's a little bit about growth, how it powers the businesses, and then how do you get trust to make sure it all sticks together.
Great, thanks. One of you obviously given a lot of food for thought. I'm sure we have a lot of budding entrepreneurs in the audience, and how a seemingly very easy problem to solve for requires years of walking the hard yard to really think through from a consumer backwards lens and build towards scale. I think that's what I'm gathering as a common thread. Maybe we'll just open up for a couple of questions, given we're running short on time. But any questions from the audience?
Hello. Yeah, thank you. There are a lot of distraction and choices for the modern consumer, Gen Z or Gen Alpha. How do you think about customer loyalty to grow the business?
Who is
more
this
about framework.
question directed to, or is it general?
General. I want to know more about the thought process rather than a specific.
Find a textbook on this. This is a very broad question, so I think we'll have to narrow it down. But maybe let me take a shot at it at one facet of it, right? How do you build customer loyalty? Why will a customer keep coming back to you? That's the fundamental question, right? Customer keeps coming back to you if your product is consistent. Amuleek spoke about this at great length, right? His entire journey is about really making sure that you get the same cup of tea every time. Because if you get the same cup of tea every time, and you're not going to go to somebody else because you got used to that. It's the same, which holds true for every consumer business. So one, you need to be consistent with the product. But having said that, your product has to be good. The product cannot remain stagnant. The product cannot be inferior because nobody is going to be committed to an inferior product. So your product, but the thing to remember is products do not stay the same. Products evolve over a period of time. Customer tastes change. In chai, they may not. I think that's one area that changes. Huh? Okay, interesting. I didn't know that. In grocery, it does. People have started buying very different products. They buy organic now. They buy, premium products. They buy imported products. They buy a lot more gourmet. So that's changing. So you need to actually make sure that your product, therefore, and now you have 10-minute delivery service. So in the speed of delivery has changed. So your product first has to be alive. Product has to keep evolving for you to have customer loyalty. Second, you need to make sure that you are consistent to that. What you promise is what you deliver. If you do these two things, these will engender loyalty over a period of time.
Hi. Hi. So question maybe for all Vipul, Amuleek, all of you guys. Feel free to answer who. The question is, when did you actually start trusting your data models over your intuition or over your biases?
Actually, बस आपको आना है स्टेज पे आप आ जाओ so I think we started so the moment online became an important part and the moment the scale of bots increased, the data just increased. It was impossible not to rely on data, but it's a very good question because the key is not few people taking decisions on data, but how do you have a large section of the company taking decisions on data? And hand to heart, that is still a journey.
I think our was a unique case because for our it's not just the data that will work, but also because there is design, there is a software brand built in, which also needs to be considered. So I think the big challenge we had on our data model was not so much as trusted, but also to make sure that the designers are looking at it, because somehow there is a concept called number blindness, I think, there. So it became for us that also was very important use of tech, that the way they could see the website or the products displayed, they always saw one number and some color coding was done for them to know this is working, this is the feedback which is coming. And yes, they did not believe the data because they really believed in the design, and when they saw that there is something not happening right with them, we gave them a whole host of the feedbacks that that is coming on the customer care center, etc. They could click and open and read it for themselves to know. But largely, I think data models also need verification every few cycles, which we continue to do. There are reports that need to be put in place where you can keep verifying, because products evolve, customers evolve, behaviors evolve.
Hello. Yeah. Hi. My question is to Vipul, sir. Yeah. So, sir, I run a lifestyle product rental startup, Sherpal.in. So, inventory is the major challenge which we face usually. So, what I wanted to understand was, you were talking about when it comes to volume, there is a demand forecast and then supply automation procurement. So, what was the priority for you in your business? You first worked on the demand forecast part for automation, or the supply procurement automation, and what was the reason behind that?
I think it's a bit of an iterative process, right? You start with one and focus on the other. So when you're small, when you're first buying, no supplier is going to give you your terms, right? He's not going to say, you can buy one piece if you want, I'll deliver you 5 times a week. None of that happens. So eventually what happens initially is that your inventory is always mismatched to your demand. So therefore, over a period of time, as your demand grows, you start getting better at demand. That's when you can start controlling. So if I were to think which leads which, I think the demand forecasting has to lead before your inventory can fall into place.
Hi, question more relevant for Vipul, Amul, and Neha. Going back to your early days, at one point of time you realized that hey, there is a product market fit and we need to double down on heavy investment in technology. Can you talk to us about that time?
Okay. No, I think the question is more actually less to do with technology and more to realize, is your product working? And a typical sign of that is when you don't need to advertise, where your demand keeps grows faster than you can actually service it, right? Or you find a lot. So there are 2-3 indicators. One is obviously your demand grows, which is very simple, addressing a large demand and there's an unmet need. So that's a clear indicator. The second is if your customers are very loyal, you find very high retention, very high usage, and customers keep coming back to you. That's also a sign of product market fit, in which case you need to figure out which are the product segments that are working. So these are typically our leading indicators of And the third is obviously a consumer feedback. If you're not finding people abusing you or sending you hate mail, you have a good product going. And I think that's really a good place to be.
Great. I think we're done with questions. Thank you so much, the panel, for coming. Give them a big round of applause, guys. What a fantastic panel. Illustrious panel. Thank you.